It is becoming more and more apparent that we live in the future era of hi-fi, where music streamers play a pivotal role, allowing versatile audiophile listenings with all the benefits of massive music libraries within your grasp. And we have seen some big disruptions in this market recently, with big disruptors coming from China with Eversolo and Wiim. They offered great sonics for great value and just started to break the mold of how much value you can get from a streamer. Wiim Ultra and DMP A6 show how great sound comes from small and big boxes. And I think that legacy players are learning and adapting to these new market trends. And you can easily see that with a new Bluesound Node icon. The Node, which was always a conspicuously smaller, budget-conscious streamer, brings all the future hi-fi technologies, including a display screen to compete. It is there so they can say we can do it and we can do it better, or at least they think that way. But the market of €1,000 streamers is so packed with great streamers that just being a good streamer is not enough. Beside already mentioned brands Cambridge Audio, Marantz, Volumio and Fio, all of them are bringing their A game in this price range. So for the Node icon to really become visible in that sea, it needs to bring more in sonics for the same or less money. And just looking at this device, I love it. It is a hefty box, but not large. Box will easily fit in your system. It is a sturdy, beautiful black aluminum box. It snuggles nicely between your amp and other components. And what everyone will see is the beautiful 5-inch screen. It is a full HD and very sharp, and can be used as a clock. It can be used to show metadata of the things you listen to, including the bitrate. And I love screens on music streamers. I'm a huge fan of the Hi-Fi Rose's huge screen. It looks aesthetically pleasing in my room, but I wish that, for like a Node icon, that they could be a little bit bigger. I don't know if it is like age showing or what, but beside the art and the name of the song, it is literally impossible to read the artist's name from a distance. And I see it somewhere around 2 meters from my streamer. So they are useful, but could be bigger and bolder in their fonts and design. I think the problem is with the artist name is that it is a smaller font, obviously, but also that it is a bit darker font, which blends in with the darker art in the background, so it's a little bit harder to read. I know when you look at it on your screen right now, it looks design pleasing, but when you sit from across the room, I would wish less design pretty and more user experience pretty. And it would be great if it could also be an OLED screen so that the plate is seamlessly merging with the design when the clock is enabled. So just a little bit screen with a little bit better contrast in colors and fonts so it can be easily for me to read. And you might have expected that the screen is touch sensitive, like in the Eversolo, but it is not, which again for me is no problem at all. Even on a Eversolo, I use it once or twice just to see how it works, and never again. I don't see why I would rise up to go to my streamer to operate on it, especially as it is in a rack and I have to lower myself to click on the screen. Bluesound did a much better thing, which they preserved from a previous models, keeping a touch controls on the top of the device, so that if I ever need to, let's say, turn off the device, which is the only way to do it unless you have a remote, but then again they charge €60 for the remote, sorry, I don't need it. I can easily see and click it without lowering myself too much. It is a very simple UI at the top for volume, next, previews and favorite actions. It's easy to understand, easy to see, and a great choice if you ask me. Left of the screen is a headphone amplifier with a full-sized headphone jack. Now, I'm not the biggest headphone guy out there, but adding a AAA linearity and AA for low noise distortion and clarity is certainly a great bonus. It's a THX certified and good for those more intimate listening moments using headphones. Behind, there's a lot to be happy about. Mainly XLR. I love XLR, but I also love HDMI and the USB-A and the USB-C. There are your typical optical and coaxial in and out, so it is really stacked with inputs and outputs. I'm so happy that XLR and HDMI are becoming more common in this price range. It makes my audiophile heart happy. Connection standpoint, we have AirPlay 2, Tidal and Spotify Connect, and aptX adaptive Bluetooth. It is also Roon ready and DAC Live ready. That DAC is a gigantic plus if you have an additional money to spare, as you need a DAC license and a measuring microphone to fully use its services. But I think it is really worth it. I would really love one day to do a review of DAC, but for now, for an additional 220 euros, you can get a measuring tool that will do a better job than EQ to connect and optimize your sound. It is that much better than your regular EQ on your application or on your amp or in your DAC, whatever. DAC truly measures the response of your room and reflections and everything and tries to create an optional sound for it. Regarding the DAC, it is a dual mono ES9039Q2M. It is a common DAC in this price range. But nonetheless, even though it is not something more exciting, it is a great DAC, so at least you know you have a decent DAC technology inside that, in my tests, rival my up to 400-450 euros in standalone DACs. That is one less box and declutter in your system. Unless you have some great DAC, then you already know the drill and what to do. It is a 24-bit 192 kHz and DSD up to 256. So nothing fancy, pretty standard, and even you guys say like competition does here a better job. The application that comes with this device like BlueOS is decent, but I have not used a single application that I consider excellent. They always prefer good UI to great UX, and I always dance around the application searching for what I need. The home screen should be much better, utilizing everything from other places into a quicker operations, as I always use favorites or music or player in navigation to handle my music playback, and hopefully one day I'm going to design an application for this that will be perfect in the UI and also in the UX department, as it just never feels right. As for example, when you go to search and you search for something, unless if it's an artist, it's always gonna find a hard time finding it. For example, if it's a song, it's just a suboptimal search engine. I always much more prefer the UI of Tidal or Spotify, as this could be done so much better. Also, I was expecting equalizing to be similar to like in Wiim, where you get a parametric and graphical equalizing. Here you have controls similar to an amp. But what does this application actually do is when you equalize, the application actually creates a straight line. So if you like super neutral listening, use this control. You might enjoy that really much. It makes the streamer really balanced and neutral. It is a completely different than how they tune it to actually work in sound. And it gives you the ability to add decibels to bass and treble to mold the sound how you like. I still much prefer how the Wiim does it, and also Wiim does a room correction software on app without needing anything else, which is a really interesting thing. While Bluesound uses direct, which is obviously miles better, it also is a costly variant that requires a lot of additional purchases. As I said earlier, DAC is awesome, but for thorough improvement of sound, you can go with DAC or an external power supply to see a tangible improvements results. It is just that you have to pick what is better for you, because both of them requires an additional investment. As I said, DAC probably requires you 220 euros to actually use it with license and a measuring microphone. The app is good looking, and when you get the gist of it, becomes pleasing to use. Except I don't know why they decide to take such a big place for those now playing and play queue buttons. Like it is something of the utmost importance, like some Apple design language from like 10 years ago. But still, in my opinion, with all its flaws, it is still the best software that comes with any streaming platform. Now we come to the meat of this review, the sound. And the sound took me some time to appreciate and like, and it is the fault of the ES Saber and Bluesound Node synergy. Maybe fault is of course, strong word, but this is a very calculated sound. Often informative, sometimes a little bit dramatic, it took me some time to realize how Bluesound stands to the competition. It is this busy price range that it really requires you to be something special to actually be noticeable right away, but this is not the one. This one actually takes time to appreciate, and it just took me some time to gather my sonic composure about understanding this sound. And let's start with this streamer, what it does the best, and that is its great organizing qualities, how it represents the mids, the sheer quality of transparency and space around instruments. It is a very clean and lean presentation. I enjoyed listening to various instrumentals across the frequency range. They just have room to breathe, and especially those around 500 Hz to 2 kHz is where it wonderfully creates a great clear sound. This is done with the help of the ES Saber, which does give a lot of precision and timing corrections, and with a good clock also. It works like a charm. When you can even in busy composition clearly hear and distinguish vocals from a lot of overdubbing, layering and textures, you know you have a great one with you. It does that with a certain elegance of being laid back and intelligent in its organization. But even if the sound is neutral, it does lean into a territory of detail extraction and presentation. And this is a great second thing about how informative and detailed this is. You can hear all the nuances, all the micro details of synths appearing around you in the soundstage. It is a very informative to tell us about all the textured information that makes them present, firm and vivid. You not only hear them, you feel them. It is not a nimble sound. It does not expand dramatically or show off. It's the tendency of Node icon is to uncover, show and expose, or maybe to point, without actually putting a large light on it. It's not like showmanship like, it's more like a great band in the shadows overtaking every composition. And that is why with these two great things, at first you're reserved in praising this. You're saluted and greeted with a great sound, but a sound that just passes you by. It doesn't linger for the sake of transparency and clarity. It does its thing and just leaves the room for the next note. And what you need from your source is that. Actually, you need that from your source. With all its great organization, it lets the soundstage bloom. It of course needs a talented supporting cast in amps and speakers, but I was happy with the soundstage, what it did to wharftails, to triangles and to dollies. It holds them accountable, expanding more than they can, while not being too airy. It's one of the sound stages that open more vertically, as it is helped by a detailed sound to sound more open. It isn't a massive soundstage, airy and exploding horizontally, but a greatly detailed one, a detailed and textured one that expands neutrally sound by just providing a lot of meat in the soundstage for to be clinically observed and wonderfully enjoyed. And while we are on the subject of soundstage, let's discuss something important to me: the tonally accuracy and imaging of vocals and instruments. I love center imaging of vocals to be present. They don't have to be the most forward, energetic or weighty, just to have that firm center with a great timing and accuracy. And I'm happy that this actually provides that. Again, in a typical Node icon fashion, I think one of the cons is that it's not too forward, it's not too weighty, and I think it works better with female vocals that opens a bit more in a high registry. It's better with female than male vocals. But again, synergy does help with this. It is hard to review a streamer on the basis of its own merits when it is a part of a larger system. It might lack excitement and drama, or extending the treble and pushing it into a territory of conveying a sense of fire, punch, energy. Not a bad thing and could be shaped differently by more treble-rich synergies, but just something to think about. But I was satisfied with the dynamics of the bass. It had a certain attack and presence, not something really rocking, but it does extend, and that is super interesting for a sound that is trying to be this clear, to have extension in low and high. Not the superb extensions, but isn't this the best of both worlds? It will push enough talented gear if you have it, and like anything, a streamer is a conductor. It cannot hardcore anything like speakers or amps, so think about synergy if you want to get better results. As I said, insight into what is happening into production and sound, it's there. But rhythmically pushing you to tap your feet to the rhythm of the song, this ain't the one, chief. It lacks that expression, it lacks that forwardness telling you to get out of that comfy chair and that it is time to embarrass yourself to think that anybody wants to see you dance and jump. It is defined and precise sound, leaving not that much to the imagination. And while we are on the subject of synergy, it would benefit from colorations. I think pairing it with a more neutral system is not that bad, like with some streamers. But I would love to see the cocktail of sounds that this streamer produces with your system to be more weighty or more forward and punchy. So in my opinion, give it to a Dali or Bowers and Wilkins with some neutral amps like Roxanne, Hegel or Musical Fidelity to create the best synergy, detailed, open and rhythmically pleasing. To better convey all these thoughts with a real-life example of listening sessions, do you guys know Scott Walker? He is one of my favorite artists, from his chansons and the baroque pop to all the way to like art and progressive music to all the avant-garde and metal endeavors in his later career. He is one of the biggest enigmas in music, and one of my favorite albums of all time is Night Flights by the Walker Brothers. It is an album where they said, screw our careers, we now do what we want, and create a musical gem for a lifetime. And it is one of my favorite albums. One of their tracks, Fat Mama Kick, there is this very brooding dark bass. I use this track to measure bass and how it handles weight. Problems do arise here as the bass is not so prominent like commanding, as it lacks a bit of drive. It doesn't actually make this song truly feel a big moving force of nature. It does a good job of distinguishing the saxophone from the vocals, synths, guitar. It places them coordinately in space. But I would love more drive to make this moving piece a bit more rocking. But in general, I was satisfied with the dynamics of bass. It had a certain attack and presence, so it did not disappoint. It's only that when you know, like side-by-side comparisons and expectations of some people might cause some disappointments here. But like with any other streamer, it is synergy that can easily fix this. But then I put on the Morphine's Cure for Pain and on a song like Buena, which also has a lot to do with the drive of a song, but it is a very complex song with a lot of instruments crashing, with a lot of percussion existing at the edges of the song. It is a merger of jazz and rock like we don't have much these days. And my god, does Bluesound Node icon organize the music great with ease. No matter how much complexity there is, in its composition, and fantastic Mark Sandman vocals are centered so nicely in the middle of that chaos. Just in the middle, having its own room, lane, and presence to preach and sing. It's just like, I love this so much, but synergize this with a warmer speakers to get correct synergy to properly enjoy this. But where this streamer is in the king is the slower compositions of the superb audio quality of Steely Dan's Aya, as its clinically tendencies allow you to explore the production tricks and immaculate musicianship of Steely Dan. It is a clean production, almost sterile, but with so much detail that the Bluesound Node extracts. It is a joy to have such a superb and clean partner to show, present, and give details en masse. You will enjoy listening to Aya a lot with this streamer. And in general, it is great for classical music. The Node icon would be a great partner in calming the complexities of Rachmaninoff and making its dynamic richness presentable far more easier. So how does Node fare against the competition? Well, I borrowed an Eversolo from a friend, and I also went to Audio Store where they allowed me to test my streamer with Cambridge Audio CXN100. It is for a direct comparison, and I used my Premiere and Wiim streamers to do side-by-side comparisons. The only thing I could not do is test or hear the Cambridge Audio EXN streamer because they didn't have it, so I haven't heard it in any way or shape, so it will not be part of these comparisons, but I think it's awesome, but unfortunately maybe next time in the future. Well, to me, the closest competitor is the very popular Eversolo DMP A6. One thing I have to say right away about the Eversolo is that it is my favorite looking streamer of all, and it has the best screen of all. It is a 6 inches to Bluesound's 5 inches, but also Bluesound is Full HD, while Eversolo is 2K in sharpness. It is an amazingly built device, which is also cheaper, almost 200 euros cheaper. And that is just something that it brings punches to Bluesound that it might be enough for everyone to look in Eversolo's direction. But what about the sound? And this is where these two devices diverge. Eversolo on first listen sounds better, but that is only on the first few listens, and it does sound better as it is a more exciting, more forward and detailed sound. Maybe not more detailed, but when a sound is trying to prove itself, like with Eversolo, it seems amazingly rounded and textured at first. In some kind of isolated listening test without like Bluesound, I could maybe see myself leaning towards Eversolo, but the Node icon is just a slow burn streamer. When spending time listening to the Node icon, you are slowly rewarded for your patience, unlike Eversolo, which gives you everything all at once. You get to appreciate a level of information and resolution you can hear. You can hear how dynamically rich it is. It is rich on all sides, yet retaining the same details as Eversolo. Eversolo is certainly more energetic, and the rhythmics are better than the Node icon. Even vocals extend a bit more, but over time I preferred listening to music while Bluesound Node more, as it fits what I need, as it is a more prestigious kind of audiophile sound. And this often happens when comparing side by side and explaining it verbally. Eversolo has a good clarity, transparency and organization quality as well. It really does. It is a great thing, but the Bluesound Node icon is just better here. It's not that, one is superbly better than other. Also, the DAC in Eversolo is just more capable in decoding. It can decode 32-bit and DSD up to 512, which is for connoisseurs of high-end music files might be a big differentiator to choose Eversolo. But Eversolo is cheaper, and not by a little. Eversolo looks great. Its app holds many cool secrets and features. It's more fun and engaging sound, so I can see many people going for Eversolo. But if you want a clearer, more precise sound with a great accuracy and great detail, just to hear all the production tricks, all the breath and influence of your songs, and just to be more informative, I think the Bluesound Node is a better choice. Similarly to what I opened with for Eversolo, I have to say that I am not a fan of the design of Cambridge audio devices. It's similar like Rotel and Premiere, all the devices which I really love, but with their silver, almost clinical design, it is just not for me. It's just not my cup of tea. And that screen just seems smaller than it should be. But do you guys remember the CXN version 2 streamer? That would be a far more fun comparison in my opinion. The sound of V2 had this distinguished, warmer qualities, making the sound weightier and bigger, but also smoother. I remember that sound with great fondness, and a difference in sound signature would be a definitely fun comparison. But that is not the CXN100, it's a completely different streamer that retains some qualities from its previous generation. First, like with Eversolo, the DAC in the Cambridge Audio is more capable with 32-bit DSD 512, but where Bluesound and Eversolo had similar inputs and outputs, Node icon comes for example with HDMI ARC, which could be a big difference for some people. Cambridge Audio and Node icon cost the same, so no price differences plays any role here, only what you like and dislike. And quality, sound-wise, these two streamers are very similar. But there are 2 points that distinguish them. And that is that inherently, Cambridge Audio is a bit more musical. May I say, a bit more weighty, fuller sound. It's not like the warm sound of V2, but it retains some qualities of previous model. And therefore, it is easier on the ear, and sometimes when there is a need for that, it has the bigger drive that makes songs feel full and everywhere and fun. I think the bass of CXN100 is more weighty, more encompassing in detail, while Bluesound has the attack to it, which is also good but not as weighty as Cambridge Audio. But I have to mention that CXN100 is not a warm streamer. So don't expect like command and authority from this bass, but in comparison to Node icon it was a bit weightier and smoother, but it's really hard to compare this. It's just a bit weightier. It's not like it's completely different sound signature. I think Bluesound is a bit more detailed, but may I say that both are very similar in many aspects. Organization, presentation, detail retrieval, but you can catch some songs neatly produced that Bluesound informs you more about. It just informs you what is happening in the song and outside of it. It groups and weaves some elements together to make it more visible who and what is doing things. So yes, Bluesound is more detailed and better at organizing instruments, being a better conductor, but the margin is not that big, and Cambridge Audio has better bass, but then again, margin is not that big. Which one would I choose? I don't know. I like how Bluesound looks. It is not that big and fits everywhere. I like that it has HDMI ARC. I love that jazz music can be super detailed and percussions can be tracked and sensed everywhere. So some nights Bluesound is the definite winner. And some nights Bruce Springsteen comes along, and those nights are more fun with Cambridge Audio's fuller and weightier sound, with vocals also sounding weightier, more present and even slightly better. That musicality of Cambridge Audio is sometimes a deciding factor. So in the end, how you listen to music will be a deciding factor. Both are awesome and should be your top consideration when acquiring a new streamer. And there is Wiim Ultra, a streamer that is 600-700 euros cheaper. It is just an outstanding value, better than anything here by far. Small, compact design, great screen, fantastic inputs and outputs, and a great application. And you might think, why don't I just buy Wiim and save some cash? Well, Wiim is a good streamer. It is just not on the same level as these previously mentioned models. I had problems with Wiim trying too hard. In the process, it forgets to do what a great streamer is supposed to do, to extract and organize all the files it receives. I always felt that the mid-section could use more refinement, more maturity. It has a great treble, it has a great information extraction, and creates a brighter sound. But I would definitely miss the more open sound of the other three devices. More texture, more palpable sound with nuances in transparency and clarity. But then again, they're much more expensive and they should sound like that. But in Wiim's range, it's just like there's nothing to beat it. Whoever buys it will have a smart and a great introduction to audiophile magic. Some might expect Cambridge Audio MX10 here as a cheaper but a fantastic alternative, and it is just that, an amazing device. But there's one I love more than MX10, and that is Premiere MP5. Let's go with the problems first. It doesn't have DAC. It is not a very versatile device. It has an awful application, and that is it. Add a DAC in a 200 euros price level or more, you get a device that is cheaper than other here that I mentioned, besides of course Wiim and MX10, but device has a great level of clarity, transparency and fantastic organizational value. Add even a 400 or 500 euros DAC and you get a device that easily rivals anything here. It's exceptional, not just in its organization but also in its details, in a bass attack and presence. It gives great attack presence while also being nimble to show and inform the listeners of what is going on. So consider this streamer, and for more information please look at my review. The link will be in the description. It is one interesting thing to consider if you already have a DAC and you want a streamer which is on a cheaper side but can deliver amazing sonics. So I don't like to take my words lightly, but I believe that this is the best streamer in its price range. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean that this is a definite must-buy, as a lot of competition is standing literally right next to it, which have a sonic flavors that it might intrigue you more. But to get a device that is this dynamically sure-footed, to create a clear, transparent, detailed visions of songs you love, will open many new horizons for you. It will play nicely with many different genres. It can actually work with all the genres you want. It will enhance a soundstage and reach while not sacrificing solidity, timing and tonal accuracy. It weaves sonic elements superbly, giving you nicely detailed and textural elements for your brain and ears to dissect and place on a sonic playground. It could have a DAC that can decode more mature files like DSD 512 and 32-bit audio. It could have a bit more energy and forwardness to make your listening sessions more goosebumpy, inducing and passionate. It could copy some rivals in adding additional features to the application which will greatly open versatility and experimentation. But it is a good looking machine. It has a nice application and a lot of inputs and outputs. It's a trustworthy device for a long time, allowing your audiophile needs to have access to many great audiophile songs in the comfort of your room and listening chair. Hope you liked my review and my content. Please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for watching and keep daydreaming. Bye.